guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Kirsten and today we are doing part 2 of my September TBR. It's time to start my own TBR game, however we already have 9 books on my TBR that I need to read this month because of Becca's Bookopoly, which would have been the video before this one. I got screwed to say the least, and I'm really hoping that some of the prompts I get on my game can match some of these books, because otherwise I've got no idea how I'm going to finish all these. But before we even get started with the rolls, I already have to do a punishment because I did not finish my August TBR. So for this I've decided that I'm just going to randomly choose a prompt from these cards and have to match it, and it cannot match the 9 books that are already on my TBR. Hopefully I get a good prompt. Fingers crossed. Anticipated read. Not a bad prompt. So for this I've chosen Vicious Spirits by Kat Cho. This is the second book after Wicked Fox, which I really enjoyed, and I pre-ordered this book. So my TBR is already up to 10 books this month now because of this, but it is one that I'm really excited to read. It's set in South Korea and we're following characters that we did meet in Wicked Fox. Wicked Fox is all about this girl who is a gumiho, which is Korean mythology, and she has to consume the souls of men to stay alive. It is YA, it does have its tropes, but I really enjoyed it and loved the Korean setting, so I'm excited to carry on with this one. Now that the punishment pick is out the way, let's get to roll number 1. Roll number 1. Green. Bright colour on the cover. Roll number 1 was a nice easy one, which is bright colour on the cover, and for this I've gone for Sailor Moon. This is on my Becca's Bookopoly TBR, and we do have some bright colours, the yellow of her hair, the pink and blue of her outfit. It works, and honestly I've already said in the previous video how excited I am to read this because I am a massive Sailor Moon fan. I loved watching it as a child and cannot wait to get into the manga. Roll number 2. Pink. Contemporary. Roll number 2 is contemporary, and I don't actually have any contemporary on my Bookopoly TBR, so that means I'm having to add another book to this growing pile. And for that I've chosen The Furies by Lowe. This is one that I picked up quite a while ago based on Jade's recommendation. I'll have her channel linked below. This seems like a kind of like an occult read of it in a way. We have these 4 girls and one of them dies, but you don't know which one. So it seems like it's going to be quite a mysterious one. I'm expecting a bit of a slightly darker read, and it's one I've been meaning to get to for a while, so at least this will finally be off my TBR. Roll number 3. Green again. Foil on the cover. And I'll first re-roll purple. Lowest rated on my TBR. Then we have roll number 3, which is our first re-roll, which honestly is not too bad. I think we're doing okay so far. And this one is foil on the cover. So of course I paired it with my Bookopoly pick for foil on the cover, which is Court of Miracles by Kesta, a Les Mis retelling. So obviously this is set in France, and it's set actually underneath the streets of France, I believe. And we have these different guilds. We have guilds for thieves, assassins, House of Flesh, all these different things, and our main character gets caught up in it all. I've seen mixed reviews. I'm interested to see what I think, and I'm glad it matched up nicely with prompts on both the TBRs. So for my re-roll I got lowest rated on my TBR, and for this I went through my Goodreads, rated it in average star rating, and the lowest that I physically own ended up being The Queen's Assassin by Melisandre de la Cruz. I really don't know much about this. I bought this purely for the cover because I think it's absolutely stunning. All I know is about an assassin who works for the Queen, I think. I don't actually know. Should I read the synopsis? Probably. Am I going to? Probably not. I guess I'll find out whether it was worth picking up just for the cover. I'm quite surprised it's ranking so low. To be fair, I haven't seen many people talk about it either, so it will be an interesting one. Roll number 4. Blue. sci-fi slash dystopian. Role number 4 also ended up being a new prompt that I recently put in, and that's to read a sci-fi or dystopian. I will admit I don't particularly like sci-fis or dystopians. I find the occasional one that I do enjoy, but otherwise it's a bit hit and miss with me. But nevertheless, for this prompt, again, I couldn't match it with my Bookopoly TBR because none of those are sci-fi or dystopian reads. But I recently got Cinder by Marissa Meyer, and did I buy this just because of the cover? Yes. I don't actually like the older covers. I was always put off by them, so never picked up the series. But now that they've had this new cover being done in, they're all in beautiful bright colours, all with this slightly more animated artwork. I really like it, and that was enough for me to actually go, I'll give this series a try, especially because it is a retelling as well. This one is a Cinderella retelling, but set in the future, and it's gonna go from there. I genuinely do like retellings, so I'm hoping the fact that it is a retelling, even though it's a sci-fi, is something I will still enjoy. Role number 5. Orange. YA fantasy. Honestly, my TBR game's being very nice to me. I feel like this is the universe's way of apologising for what happened in Bookopoly, because that did not go well. But the 4th role ended up being YA fantasy, which worked really nicely for quite a few of the books on my Bookopoly TBR, but I decided to go with Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha and Ngan. In this book, we are following girls who are called paper girls, and their sole purpose is to be concubines for the king. However, it is unwillingly. I'm expecting this to be quite a difficult read in places because of it being such a sensitive subject matter. However, there is a female-female romance in here, so there is some silver lining throughout the story. I've heard really good things about this first book, and then people saying the second book's not quite as good, but like I said with Becca's Bookopoly, I'm interested to make up my own mind and see what I think. Role number 6. Purple again. Over 500 pages. Re-roll. Blue again. Anything. That means another re-roll. Oh my gosh. Blue again. Highest rated on my TBR. And another re-roll. Yellow. Thrifted. I spoke too soon. Roll number 6 screwed me. I ended up with 3 re-rolls. Like, for real? Never mind. So the first roll is to read a book over 500 pages, which worked really well for Kingsbane by Legrand. Again, this is on my Bookopoly TBR already, and I'm really excited to get to this. I read Furies, which is book 1 in the Empyrean trilogy, and I absolutely loved it. We're following 2 main characters in 2 different timelines. The very first chapter shows you what happens at the end of one of the timelines and what causes the next timeline to start, because one of the timelines takes place in the past, and we're following Riel, who is an elemental but a very powerful one, and is having to prove that she is in control of her abilities. And the second timeline, we are following Emilia, and she is a mercenary, and she again has these powers which nobody else has. So it's an interesting storyline. Obviously we have the chosen one trope throughout it, but I really loved both the different storylines. I like the way it changes between each chapter on whose story you're getting. They all just follow straight on from one another, so I really enjoyed it. It was a really interesting world, and I'm really excited to carry on with Kingsbane. My first re-roll for roll number 6 came up with Anything. This is a new one that I put on because I felt like being nice to myself for once, and that worked out really well because I could literally pick any book that was already on my Bookopoly TBR, and so for this one I've chosen The Beautiful. I've talked about this book a lot. I haven't even read it. I've already bought the second book, The Damned, because I cannot wait to read this. This is set in New Orleans. We have vampires in here. I know a lot of people have complained saying that it's not really obvious vampires, but honestly I'm happy with that. It's nice to have things alluded to for a change, and you know, these vampires aren't sparkly, so it's already a plus in my opinion. So yes, I cannot wait to get to this one. Then we had highest rated on my TBR, so I did the exact same thing with lowest rated. So I ranked my Goodreads in order of average star rating, went for the highest that I actually own, and that came out with Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson, and yes, I am happy with this. I absolutely loved Good Girl's Guide to Murder I thought was brilliant. I loved Pip as a main character. She was so sarcastic and smart, and it was just a brilliant read, and the atmosphere got really built up with tension towards the end, so I'm really excited to see how this one goes. Again, a lot of people are saying that it's not as good as the first book, but I'm still excited to read it, and I cannot wait to see what Pip gets herself caught up in this time. And then my final roll for this month came out with Thrifted, which works really well for another book on the Bookopoly TBR, and that's The Night Circus, because I picked this up from a charity shop for £1. This isn't a book that I'm overly excited to get to. This was one of the picks that were out of the books that I don't particularly want to read, but I have been told it's beautiful writing and it's very lyrical, and you know what, I really do like Lani Taylor's writing, Patrick Rufford's writing. Both of them have very beautiful flowery writing, and I have really enjoyed those stories, so I'm hoping that I'll enjoy this one just as much. It's not something I've been inclined to read. I think I did pretty well with my TBR game. I have 3 books that I couldn't match up with my TBR, but I think that's not too bad. I will say it's still a ginormous TBR considering I have those 3 and all of these to get through. So that's a total of 14 books, I believe, which is quite a lot considering some of these books are actually really chunky. So wish me luck for my September TBR because it's huge. I'm hoping I can get to all the books on time, but I guess we'll see. Do let me know in the comments below if you're taking part in any readathons. Again, I would love to check out your videos, and also let me know if any of the books on TBR you've read and what your thoughts were. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. All my social media links to my Instagram, Goodreads and Twitter will be linked below, and I'll catch you in the next video.